What's up guys, AJ here. So I recently just got back from the Build conference. One of my business partners, Brent Gove, puts it on. This is the second year we had it, and Tony Robbins, both years, has been our guest speaker. So as the day was wrapping up, Brent comes over, asked me to join him and a few select others at this private dinner with Tony. And of course I couldn't pass it up. So I was planning on flying home that night because I was in the middle of moving houses. And I flew out the next day because I couldn't pass up an experience like that. And it was honestly one of the coolest experiences of my life. Growing up, I've always been into personal development. So Tony Robbins being, really the godfather of our modern day personal development, I guess, the old school guys like Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, Les Brown, love all those guys. But Tony Robbins is really like just a one-of-a-kind human being that I don't think we'll ever see someone like him in our lifetimes. The impact that he's had on so many people's lives, including mine, has been really just incredible. So to be able to ask him a question at this private dinner was really special, and I'm excited to share it with you. There's only about 30 of us in the room, and Tony being a little long-winded with his answers because he's so entertaining and informative at the same time, only about 4 or 5 people got to ask him a question, and I was one of them. So without further ado, I want you to watch this video, and I'll come back at the end, so make sure you stay to the end. What advice would you give 35-year-old Tony?
I get this question all the time for some reason. It seems to be popular. 35-year-old Tony, 25-year-old Tony. I think I'd give him the same advice that Jim Rohn gave me that really kept me going in the early stage. I remember in the early stage of my career, I was working so hard, and at the beginning of a business or anything else or mastering skills, you're not good. Or you're good, but you're not great. Right? Or you're really good and great, but nobody knows you yet. So you got to build that, right? And so Jim told me one day, he said, Tony, listen, your gifts will make room for you. Keep working on you, keep delivering, keep adding value, and your gifts will make room for you. And I found that to be true, so I give that same advice. The only other thing is, I did learn a principle probably, I don't know, maybe when I was 30, that was life-changing. I went on a trip with some people that are now my good friends. They were all 18, 20 was my senior. They're all the best in the world at what they do. One of the guys, the richest guy in Canada. One of the guys, my good friend, is he owns the Warriors, he owns the Dodgers. I actually own pieces of those teams with him, but he's the main owner. Major League Soccer, he owns the LA Dodgers, the LA FC, which I own with him. But he also has 52 Academy Award nominations. And so just genius. So this group of genius people, and I touched a couple of their lives. So they do these 3 trips a year where they get away, and their whole thing is if you break bread with somebody, it's really going to get closer. But if you go on a trip for 3 or 4 days, or 5, day and night making bread, you get to know someone at a level so much faster than if you meet them once a week for lunch. And so I kind of took that principle in, but I also went with them on this trip. And one of the guys there was the richest man in Canada. And I felt totally out of my league, to be honest. Because these guys are billionaires, and I wasn't yet even close to that. And I don't know, they're all the best in the world, and I'm a pretty confident guy. But when you're getting on somebody else's G5 and you're flying 18 hours, and they're all talking $50 million, $100 million deals and things like that, I felt a lot of place. And so instead of being excited on this trip, about 2 or 3 days into it, I was just like, oh my God, Because I also, he called me, my friend is Peter, what was his name? Peter called me and said, I want you to come on this trip. I want these guys to meet you. We're not running anybody in this group forever. You should come on this trip. They've all agreed to bring you. And, if they really like you, maybe this can become an ongoing thing a couple times a year. And he goes, Tony, we go on the most amazing trips, but it's really the conversations that change your life. You're in proximity with great people, great things come up. And so I remember asking, well, how long will this be? Because those days, I was not a business owner, I was a business operator. And if you're a business operator, you're always stressed. And you have to be there. Now I'm an owner of, over 100 companies. I'm not there for most of them, I'm there strategically. But back then I didn't understand it. So it's like, how many days? I don't know, 8, 10 days. 8, 10 days? In my head, I'm like, holy shit, I can't be running my business 8, 10 days and fall apart, right? And then it's like, well, how do you do this thing? Like, he goes, what do you mean? Well, like the Gulf Streams and all this thing, it's like 10-day trip, like, how's that cost? He goes, we just add it all up and split it up amongst us. How many was there? I didn't know the Gulf Stream yet or anything like that, but I knew kind of what they cost. I'm like, okay, we're gonna fly 22 hours in the Gulf Stream, That's like, oh my God, what is it? $20, $30, $40, $50,000, something like that, right? $20, $30, $50,000. So we get on the plane, and I'll never forget, they weren't used to me. I was one more person, there weren't enough beds. We were flying to Taiwan at the time, and it's like an 18-hour flight, And they said, well, we'll have to separate out and trade out. Like, I can't take the fantastic. Guys, this is your trip. Look, I like to work. They go 18 hours? I go, yeah. They all took Ambien. I'm the whole night going, $40,000, 10 days. I'll tell you, the principle changed my life. We're about 4 days in the trip. We went like to 3 countries in 4 days. We went to Hawaii, and we went to Vietnam, and then we're going to China, the Great Wall. And I sit down, and the only seat available is next to the guy's the richest guy in Canada, who's right now. But at the time, I was a little intimidated. I sit down, so I grab the Wall Street Journal and read the Wall Street Journal. And all of a sudden, like a smack on the paper. And then, bam, hits it again. I pull it down, and he looks at me and goes, "You piss me off." I'm like, oh, great, I've been here 4 days, I spent all my money and my time, and I pissed off the richest guy in the room. Right? And I said, excuse me? He goes, "You piss me off." He looked really intense in my eyes. I'm like, "I'm so sorry, what did I do?" He goes, "Everywhere we go, Tony, they can't even speak English. Tony, look, Tony, look, Tony." People hug me, people say you changed their life. He got so intense in my face, I'm like, he goes, "Do you know how much money I'm worth? Do you know how many businesses I own? Do you know how much money I provide for other people through that work and their college education?" And I've never had one person look me in the face and say, "You changed my life. You pissed me off." I don't know what the hell was said. I was like, "I'm sorry." And then he started to grin from ear to ear, this son of a bitch. And he goes, "I'm only half kidding. You do piss me off. But the reason I want to talk to you is I feel like you don't think you belong here." He read me like a book. Wow. And I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm saying it because," how old are you? I was 30. He goes, Do you know when I was at 30? I made my first $1 million, lost it, I was totally broke." He goes, "Do you know what I give to be 30 and know what you know, have the experience you have?" He said, "You got your island, you got a great lifestyle, but you got something better. You got people all over the earth that can't even speak your language and they love you because you changed their life." He goes, "I don't know what I give to that, but I think you belong here." It was one of the greatest gifts. I almost teared up. I was trying not to cry. It was such a kind thing to do and such a cool thing to do. Made us friends. And then as a result of that, he asked me some of my goals. And at that time, I always thought I would do something eventually politically because I want to help people change their lives. I don't want to do that now. I've served multiple presidents and I'd rather stay on the outside because the system's so screwed up. So I told him at that time, he goes, "Well, if you're going to do that, you really need to understand the principle." He goes, "It's the most important principle to my wealth." I'm leaning in, here's the richest guy in Canada. I want to hear every word, right? He goes, "It's a one word, I'll tell you. Proximity." I said, "What does that mean?" He goes, "Proximity is power." I said, "I think I know what that means, but will you please clarify because I don't want to miss it." He goes, "It's simple, Tony. If you wanted to make a movie right now," I was in like 35 movies at that point, none of which I asked to be in. He said, "You have so many clients that are in the entertainment business, actors, directors, heads of studios that love you. I know a bunch of them. They all think you're the greatest. And you find yourself in all these movies." This is before I even mentioned out loud. He goes, "If you wanted to make a movie right now, you had a decent script. You know everybody, you could do it. But if you want to make a deal with IBM right now," which Bill Gates did because his parents were on the board, he said he had proximity. He goes, "I'm not saying you couldn't do it, but it's going to take a lot of effort because you don't know anybody there." So he said, proximity is the key, and if you want to run for president someday, and you say you want to do it on your own dollars and with, you're not beholden to a bunch of group of people, it's going to take a lot more money than you have. I said, "I know." He goes, "So how many investment bankers do you know?" I said, "No, I don't know, I probably know a dozen, maybe 2 dozen, I don't know." And he goes, "How much time do you spend with them?" And I said, "None." He goes, "Why not?" I said, "Well, I'd like to be the giver. I don't want to be the taker, and I don't have a clear plan of how I do things for them. So if I can figure something to do for them and I figure out what I want, but I'm not there yet." He goes, "No, Tony, they just want to hang out with you. You're underselling yourself. You're an interesting character. You're going to want to know. But if you get in proximity to them on a regular basis, just like the movies, someone's going to find a deal to put you in." He said, "You need to do that en masse." He goes, "So now you're one of us." I'm still part of this group. we have, it's a fun group of people to say the least. But now I'm more than qualified. I'm one of them, meaning over these last 20 years of growth and me, 30 years since I started with them, I'm now 62. I'm a player right beside them at the same level and the same components. But it happened because I started getting in proximity. I go to New York and I meet these investment bankers and I felt out of my league or out of the environment. I didn't know what I was doing there. But interesting things came, and then one day one of them called me up and said, "This billionaire guy, he's a big fan of yours." I said, "Yeah, he was healed by this guy and he took his company public for him." And now when I grow it, and the guy's kind of stuck, and there's another company you can merge him with, but the guy runs out as a young buck, and they are oil and water, they won't do it. And then our buddy, the billionaire guy, said, I bet if you put Tony with those two guys, he could turn that around in no time. And I said, I could. And they said, well, maybe we'll work something out and get some stock. I said, don't give me anything. Let me go do it. And then if I can do it, which I believe I can, so instead of just saying it, I said, I know this pattern. These both men are driven by the need for significance, and they're just smashing each other. I said, but I gotta find something they value more. I said, I'll figure it out. I said, if I do it, then you can talk stock with me, and maybe we'll take all their people to my place in Fiji, and I'll integrate both teams. So long story, I did it in 2 days. They couldn't believe it. Then I took all their teams and integrated their teams as one, got rid of all the bullshit between them in about 5 days of immersion. And in Fiji, in a beautiful place in the resort, and I came back and they gave me this stock, and within a month it was worth $35 million, which is more money I've ever made in my life. Just by proximity. But it doesn't end there. So then about 2 months go by, and I get a phone call, and I'm in the south of France, and actually south of Italy, Portofino. I'm on a yacht, and doing this little celebration tour with some friends. And I get this call from this billionaire guy, and he says, Tony, I need your help with something. I got some not so good news. I said, what is it? He goes, well, there's this thing called Black Scholes. If you know anything about taxes, you understand this. He goes, well, we didn't announce what we gave you at the time. Now the stock's gone up, and now we're going to announce it. It's going to take a big hit for everybody. The number's going to be down for you and everybody else, so we'd like you to give back your stock. It's like, give back $35 million in stock? After I goodbye said I was going to do with him something? He goes, hear me out. I know you want to create a 24/7, 365 kind of university with many people. This is back in '99. And, you know, the head of AOL is a big fan of yours. If he steps in and says it, and we do a reverse merger on a company, you go to your own company, own 50% of it, a public company, and we think it'll be worth 75 or 100 million, not 35. And I said, okay. They made the deal. They did the reverse merger. The stock went to $24 to $1, and I was worth $400 million in a month. One thing, proximity. Proximity. You do more with the right proximity than you're going to do with all your effort. And then, of course, it was 1999, and all the technology that they promised, you know, Microsoft, was all bullshit. We couldn't get full motion video to work for shit. All the things fell apart, but the stock was still worth a shitload, right? And I was saying to everybody around me, guys, we need to buy some hard assets right now. With our stock, let's buy some hard assets, and then when this technology actually gets where they've been saying it is, in reality, we can do this. And they're like, no, Tony, it's the beginning of the beginning of the beginning. This thing's going to go to $90, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, 1999 happened, and it fell to the floor. My $400 million went down to about $20 million. And then I had to work hard to keep the company from going under, which I did. It took me another 3 years. I made almost nothing out of the whole deal. But I found out who I was. I built new resources. And within a few years, I dwarfed what I was doing with $400 million, just because of the skills I built. And because I had the network, because I was in proximity. So to me, one of the most powerful business principles of all, and I don't do it a lot. I do it consciously because I'm not like a networker. I come here to serve you guys. I can serve you here, but you know, shouldn't hand me having to do that. But just talking small talk is kind of not my game. I'd rather go home, be with my kid and my wife and so forth. Right? But I deliberately put myself in certain environments because I know by being there, we're going to make relationships that'll be lasting relationships, important relationships for them, for us, perhaps for your sense of mission, perhaps for your economics. So when I say proximity, it's get proximity to people playing the game higher than you. If you're playing tennis against somebody you're better than, it's only a matter of time your game's going to go down because you're not being challenged. You know, Serena's one of my clients. If you've been on the course with Serena, you can't play tennis. Just to stay on that court, you have to get good. Just to be around her, you got to get good. You know what I mean? So you want to get where you're uncomfortable. You want to put yourself in environments that are kind of beyond your current level. Even if your current level's huge, it's off the charts. There's always a bigger fight. There's always a bigger environment. And also when you grow like that, that's what makes people happy. We don't get happy. People always ask me, what makes people happy? You know, been around the world in 195 countries. And the answer is progress. Progress is the only thing that makes people happy long term. You getting something, you get excited, and it's over, but if you continue to make progress, continue to grow, you're going to be fulfilled. Does that answer your question?
That was perfect. Thank you.
Welcome.
Wow, that was so impactful, and I'm just so grateful for that opportunity to ask him a question. I took out 3 to 4 main bullet points out of it that I'll link up in the description of this video, so if you want to check it out, my ahas are there. I hope you are taking notes, and I'll break down this video a little bit more in a future one of really all my ahas that I got and really how it's impacted me and how I'll use that advice moving forward. So stay tuned for that in a future video, and if you aren't already subscribed, please do.